So we'll start with public to be heard on agenda items only. If you'd like to speak, please state your name, township of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak. The public. Yeah, okay. We'll move on to acceptance of the minutes from June 10th.
Second.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Fink, I'm going to switch it over to you.
Right, we'll get through the monthly reports. Keep in mind, we are only 2 months into the operating. I'll probably be saying that a few times. We are in what Mary and I like to call cash accumulation mode. So currently our cash is sitting at about almost $145.5 million. And for points of reference, last month we were about 70, so you can see how much we collected net. And then last year at this time, we were at almost 124 million. I'm gonna flip through these. So our collections have gone a little bit better than expected so far year to date, over what we expected by about $27 million. That's not to say we're going to be $27 million in budget. It's just timing is really what it's. Folks are getting it in August rather than into the daytime period more so than elsewhere. So everything else on the local seems to be falling in line pretty well. You'll notice in the state sources, or we can address this quickly and briefly. There are 2 shortages, obviously, for the basic ed and the special ed subsidies. And those, of course, are because there's no state budget yet. So they're not releasing those funds. Eventually, whatever the state agrees to on their budget, that will get released, likely almost immediately for those things. But it's important to note those 2 things. Typically our cash.
Just for the public and for the committee, can you just remind, I know we did the assumption for the 50%, but could you just remind the amounts that we budgeted for those, just to give a sense of what we're missing this?
Oh, yeah, we're talking about what the state funding is about 20% or so. It's just under 20% of our funding. So most of it's local funding anyways. Cash flow wise, we'd probably be good. Mary and I watch these numbers pretty closer between, through like February. So I wouldn't expect that the state's going to be out of compliance with its own law for that long. But you never know. One thing that was actually helpful though too, Mary reported this to me the other day, that she was contacted by the state regarding our PSERS, our retirement contributions. And as you know, the district puts in half, each time, and the state puts in half each time. It's a cookie formula, which typically is the district puts in 100% and then gets a refund back from the state. For this quarter, at least, the PSERS board has said, just give me the school district's half. Don't worry about the state's half. So that's about $4 million in cash flow that we get to hold back. So that was nice. Now that was really just for this past quarter. So just so we're aware of that. On the expense side of the ledger, you can see running down that left-hand column, everything's pretty much right in line where we want to be. Again, I said it earlier, I'll say it again, we're only 2 months in. So I'm not surprised by that at all. Things aren't going to go, they shouldn't be going wonky that. But those numbers are looking pretty good as well. We look at our assessment values. You'll notice in this one, this is the first time this has happened since I've been here, and it's because of that property, the assessment appeal down on Arcola Road, which I'm sure everybody's tired of hearing me talk about. But that's why you see that left-hand column at $4.3 million, and the current column right in the center there, it's actually down about $100 million, and that's because of that assessment appeal. That's when it actually took. The settlement was done just late in June, but it doesn't hit the books until it's up.
Did you just say 100 million?
$100 million, yes.
Yeah, so, but just to be clear, like, can you just explain in context? So it's $100 million reassessment. So there's property value. It got reassessed for 100 million less. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that the assessment itself dropped to 100 million.
Right, which means our revenue.
The implied market value down to the actual market value dropped almost 400 million. That's where you get that.
That's where we have, and then that means we have a delta in revenue because of the assessment.
Correct. And those are the things when we get down a little bit further, they timeline. And that's where we're gonna be talking a little bit about that $3.5 million revenue hit that caused and how we're going to address that going forward. Okay. Real estate transfer taxes, they're looking pretty good. We're at about 29, almost 29% of our overall budget. Properties are moving a little bit. I think there's an expectation that interest rates are going to start going down again. And so it seems like, the long-term, people are seeing some light at the end of the tunnel that even if they buy now, they may be able to refi within the short term, get a better rate. So that's going to help that line. Earned income taxes are also doing well, about $150,000 over prior year. That's about 6.25%. So starting off the year really well there as well. Again, who wants it, right? Self-funded health insurance. So far, my note here in my notes says so far so good, right? After all the stuff we've talked about over the past year and a half, we seem to be in a place right now where at least, again, 2 months in, where it seems to be at least okay for now. I think last year was already starting to blow up.
I was gonna say that, it's like over the last 2 years, I think in this committee meeting, we were already noticing red flags with that, so that's,
Yeah.
I don't know, promising is a word, but that's,
Yeah, again, 2 months in, right? So.
Yeah, right.
So we'll see what the next couple of months bring forward, so. And just a snapshot at food service, this is even less than 2 months in. It really, when I look at it, it's only 5 days worth of service. The rest of it is all the prep work over the summer and the accumulation of food product and so a lot of no real surprises there either. Okay. And that is the monthly executive reports. Next on the, you want me to just go through it? You want, yeah, okay. Next, we put on the agenda, a look at the 26-27 budget timeline. So what's what I'm saying? Okay. So this is what the timeline generally looks like. Again, we target getting a final budget done at the end of May so that the business office, the tax collectors, the printers all have ample time to get everything ticked and tied and bills out the door and all that. So that's what the timeline looks like. The index, by the way, just came through a week or so ago for the 26-27. So I put 25-26 at the top. Sorry about that. That should say 26-27. I'll make sure I correct that next time. Sorry about that. Came in at 3.5%. We were originally told the estimate was going to be 3.7. So there's that 0.2. So we'll have to go back and brush up some of our numbers as we look forward on that. Now, these are like the milestones, right? So these are, I think Bob Rizzo, when he did his presentation back in June, referred to these marks as the board's milestones. This doesn't necessarily talk about all the work that gets done under the covers by my department and all the administrators throughout the district, and what we've talked about, again, Teresa, I'll get back to that $3.5 million that we talked about, that revenue hit, where we're going to have to do some, I'll call it budget restructuring. I don't know if it's the right term or not, but some budget restructuring, a lot of effort and analysis that's going to go into that type of recovery. Things like, and these are things that we talked about in Mr. Rizzo's timeline from back in June that Dr. Scanlon and I talked to the board about over the summer. Things that we're going to be addressing, like staff utilization, review and restructure of all of our long-term plans, including tech facilities, furniture, athletics, curriculum, you name it, all of those long-term plans. So we can see, is there any way we can extend some of those out to get a little bit more runway out of some of our assets before replacement, but also before running into higher cost problems of something, blowing up, then, always costs more to fix at that point. Yes.
I think just for clarity, because I'm not sure if everyone's aware of this, but I think you rattled off some of them. Can you just, for the benefit, be clear about the long-term plans we already have in place? So I know we're already looking at them, but we actually already have a number of long-term plans in place for many areas of our.
Oh, yeah, most of our areas have long-term plans. Yeah, I'll go back to, facilities, Dan and I worked extensively, and then Bob Hunter, his predecessor, worked extensively on that. Technology, there's a long-term technology plan for all of the gadgets that we work with every day. Furniture, that's a big component. One that didn't exist before Mary and I got here, athletics. is another one that we're looking at. Curriculum is another one. There are some, we're looking at a no stone unturned approach. So we're looking at every major area that we have, probably even some minor areas. We know some probably won't bear a lot of fruit. We're gonna look at them anyway. Just, we want to make sure. So, and,
Oh, sorry, I mean, finish your sentence.
okay, what do you got?
I was gonna say, and maybe just a question about that, because my sense in listening to like the work that's going on is like, it is a lot
It's a lot.
of work. So like the question I think I've been considering is just like between you and Mary, like how are you feeling from a staffing perspective, given not only do we have like the large facilities working capital plan, we have our regular budget work, we have this, like, how is your staff feeling?
I'm not feeling good about it. I'm gonna be honest with you, and probably something I was gonna bring up a little bit later after Dr. Scanlon had a chance to go through the capital project plan, that we're calling infrastructure plan. Capital plan, there we go. There is a lot of work and a lot of analysis that has to get done, in that regard. And, from our perspective, we also have our day-to-day work that needs to get done too. And I was going to, a little bit later on, but I'll do it now since you brought it up, urge the board to reconsider what was declined in June, which is the accounting manager position. And then allowing the business office to restructure with more professional staff, as I had outlined in the memo that I submitted. I'll further go on and say, if we take a look at that plan, the way that plan was put forth, and I think the board recognizes that the cost of that overall plan was about $27,000 all in. I know there were budget concerns at the time. In looking at those, where we are now compared to where we were then, this is what I can tell you is we've had, one of the positions has been open since the beginning of the year. Another one, we had a staff accountant who decided that she wanted a little bit of a career change. She wanted to work directly with students. So she left our department in August and to become an instructional aide, which is great for her. We're happy for her. But again, another vacancy. So again, more pressure on the staff that's here, but also savings there. I mean, if we just add up the overall savings of that, that's $37,000 all in right there saved. In addition to that, because the restructuring plan that we had talked about doing would have taken effect on July 1, we're now a quarter later. There's another $6,700 that wasn't spent, that otherwise probably would have been. So when you look at it, doing it at this point, we're still, if we were to move forward with this restructuring plan that Mary and I had suggested or recommended, we're still $17,000 ahead of the game in this current budget. So I think that's something to be considered. And again, I'm urging the board to reconsider that.
So Dr. Scanlon, I think this deliberation happened when was not at that voting meeting, but I would love to understand your perspective on this as well, because I think, if I can recall back to watching the recording, I think some of the comments was like, let's kind of like, you weren't in place at that point, right? So like, let's wait till we get a superintendent in place and they may have a perspective on this. So do you have a perspective on this?
Yeah, I've looked at our current staffing, particularly in the business office. From budget, we're talking about budget every day. We're talking about budget with our administrators every day. We want to be careful with that. There's a heavy lift that takes the best of conditions. And I think with some of the projects that we're about to undertake, there's going to be additional lift. I don't think we should have open positions in the business office. I also believe every time there is a retirement or a resignation, it's an opportunity to restructure, be more efficient, instead of adding other people, restructure the people, give some other responsibilities, but you got to compensate for that. So this does not add another benefits package. It does not add another person in the department. It just kind of restructures and provides different opportunities for people to grow and take on more responsibility, but they're compensated accordingly for that. So I think we looked at the numbers just last week with the savings of, the attritional savings of about 44,000. You need to put about 27,000 net, maybe 20,000, 21,000, because we're part of the year. It's money well spent that I think would benefit the district in terms of a restructure.
So what's different? What's different up there now that's not different in the past?
Work wise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think right now, I think we're running, we're looking at a ship now that was running on smooth water. We got hit with a number of assessment appeals, which has made it so we're not running on such smooth water as we were, and that takes a lot further analysis than probably otherwise would have. In addition to that, and Dr. Scanlon's going to go into after we talk about this, it's going to go into the capital plan, which is going to take more analysis, a lot more analysis from, from a higher level vantage point, of expertise than a clerical expertise. More than that.
But we've done facility analysis before.
We have, but we haven't had to try to recover, a big chunk of revenue lost before. We haven't done that before. We certainly take our time in looking at positions and seeing whether or not the position needs to be replaced, and if it doesn't, we repurpose those dollars or those types of things, but never really to take, I'll say a scalpel to some budget areas with that level of analysis that needs to get done to that, including an overall district-wide analysis of how we schedule our staff users.
My personal assessment of this is that, like, yes, there's the work that has to happen every day, like the budget stuff, which we're used to doing, right? But there is this added additional work of complexity with the capital plan and this really deep dive on this budget because we need to do more work. I think we did a lot of good work last year. It's not enough. The circumstances that we're in are very unique. And I think we want to make sure, I'll speak for myself. I want to make sure the work is done right and the work is done by the right level of people, which is a concern, which I think was part of some of the recommendation in Mr. Fink's piece. So I don't know if this is the appropriate time now. I sort of jumped in, but or if it's later, but at least I have an interest in potentially bringing this back in front of the board for reconsideration.
So
I have no objection to it coming back to the board. My questions are pretty basic. Math is math. Facilities plans, evaluations, we've done that over the 10 years I've been here. So I'm not sure what complexity that exists. Same building, same square footage.
So maybe, and again, I'm open to it, but since the intent was maybe to listen to some of the details around the capital plan,
Yeah.
can we listen to that and then
Sure.
maybe come back to this
Yeah.
conversation?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would just hope when we do come back to
Sure.
the conversation, that the other board members are here, have that opportunity
Yeah.
to ask good questions. That wasn't done last time.
Sure. We can do that. But let's move forward. We're gonna move forward. So I'm gonna stop this share. I'm gonna bring up that other document, put it up on the screen. This may look a little- That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's.
And that for you,
Thank you.
right over there, yeah.
Do that. That better? That better? Yeah. I'm good at mathing.
You like Excel sheets better.
Cool.
You love that.
You look up to my friend. Gotcha.
Okay, so we've certainly done a lot of research, a lot of analysis of our facilities. I went back to look at some of the meetings to kind of get us to where we are today. We had a facilities plan done in terms of feasibility study. We had a full day kindergarten presentation a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of pieces that we've done. We did a demographic study last year. And so now we have, and we heard a presentation from GKO Architects about some various options to try to meet the needs of that plan. So the task now is to try to pin that down and get to a decision point for the board. So I've drafted an outline here, and I'd like to start with the goals. Really, what is the goal here? And I think any school district, and this school district has done a really good job of maintaining its facilities. Like I started to go back and look at since 2019, the amount of preventative maintenance money and dollars that we put into facilities and we've done a good job maintaining them. You gotta make sure you keep doing that. Particularly in a place where in the nineties, a lot of facilities were built because of the rapid growth here. They're all coming to their life expectancy about the same time frame, so that puts a little pressure on the budget. So we want to maintain that what we currently have, that we have this, safe, warm, dry, our HVAC units, our roofs, windows, all the basics that you got to have to keep comfortable learning environments in place to maintain that. So that'd be the first goal. Second goal is, and I heard from a lot of board members about the number of transitions here. We have some plans that go to reduce the number of transitions, and there's some research out there about keeping kids in a building longer, get to know them a little bit longer. We have a couple of places where kids are at 1 year, one stop, and then moving on. And we want to provide some research on that. So, but that's one of the goals. And then there's been talk about full day kindergarten, and full day kindergarten, there's a cost to that. So we got to look at the benefits, but also the financial viability. You got to look at the finances. A full day kindergarten, is it even financially feasible to bring a full day kindergarten, and at what time could you do that if it is feasible? So those are the three goals that we want to try to address through this process. We had the GK architects presented, the options to the board in August. September and part of October, to Mr. Fink's point, we have to do a lot of data crunching. We've already started this process. In fact, we had a meeting with our principals this morning about some data collection that we want them to help us with. So this obviously today would put the timeline out there, but we have to look at part of that presentation about feasibility didn't include our preventative maintenance piece. We got to put all this in. That's a cost. So that in addition to the space that we may need for this plan, we want to make sure that we've got the preventive maintenance cost in there. The demographic study, and that was done a year ago. And the thing that I've heard a lot of is, okay, yes, we did it. However, we have a lot of open space in this community, and when a big developer comes in,
Taking most of it.
there are big developments coming on board. So a couple of the developments that were talked about were part of that study. But I think it would be in our best interest a year later now to kind of update, are there any other developments in the pipeline since last November that we might not be aware of, or maybe they're coming down the line, just so we have the most accurate, up-to-date data to make a decision here. That's going to determine our space needs. The transition piece, put some research together. We're building some research base, so that we'll show the board what the research says on transition for students, how it affects them academically, socially, and emotionally. The cost benefit analysis of full day kindergarten. There are some districts that in the past 5 or 6 years have implemented full day K. How they do it? What kind of things did they see? There's state studies. About 87% of the school districts in Pennsylvania have full day kindergarten. And so most have done that. There are some that still have not, obviously. Again, the benefits of fewer transitions. What does that look like in middle school? Because certainly one of the models when you reduce transitions is to set a 6, 7, 8 middle school. One of the benefits of a middle school teaming model for when you set up teachers and middle school in a team like that. So that's a lot of data that we're putting together so that in October we can present all that to the respective board committees. This is one where I've said this over and over to our administrative team. I don't care what committee any of this goes through, because eventually they're all connected. You've got academic achievement and student achievement. So, okay, we go through curriculum committee, but you still got to pay for it. You go through finance committee. You still got to do the facilities. You go through facilities committee. So they're all going to be connected and intertwined. So we may do parts of one committee and another, but ultimately they're all connected and really all one. In some ways, doing that 3 different committees won't be a bad thing, because we can get the information out in more than one way and more than one time. November, we do have a date. This is where I would recommend putting a community group together and doing an update with our community on where we are with all of this information that the board has now teased out. Set up some breakout sessions for feedback. from the community on what they think with regard to that. And that is November 12th. We just found a date for that, November 12th, at the 8th grade center auditorium. We'll put all this up on the website. And, summarize feedback from the board after we get some feedback. Let the board know what we heard at that meeting. And that could be topical. That might be a group interested in full day K or 8th grade center or middle school. Like we can break that down into different topics, because there'll be multiple people at that meeting for getting information and presenting questions to us. And those are different than a board meeting, because a board meeting has, you're set with some public comment regulations, and it's not really a time to have the dialogue. This is an opportunity to have dialogue with our community. December, we're gonna then take that information, we go back into our analysis hole with our administrative team. And some teachers probably involved in this. And we start pinning that down. We look at the demographic and capacity analysis. We have that finalized. We look at the assessment of all of our buildings. And we begin to pin this down from the 4 options or 4A options that we have, to try to get it down to 2 options that we think would be the most feasible or viable. Bring that back to the board. And then in February, go back out for another community meeting. Now that we pinned it down, get some additional feedback and input at another a meeting where they have opportunity to ask questions of us about the plan, summarize all of that, and then ultimately bring a recommendation to the board in March for consideration for approval.
Checked informative services now. Coming through, but the one thing I just wanted to emphasize or clarify, I know we talked about this, it sounds like there will be a couple of places where the community can not only just have comment, but ask. I'm very happy to see. I think this is a pretty big decision, and we want to make sure that we can hear from people. So I'm happy to see that people will have, looks like at least 2 venues, if I got it correctly, between
Yes.
November and February to
November
give
and
input.
February,
So
yes.
that's great to hear.
So you're looking for feedback on what's laid out here?
Sure.
So if I go back, so I'm gonna put on my engineer cap. So there is no land. Where is this land gonna come from to address for the kindergarten? Couple questions. Land for the kindergarten, number one. If you're doing renovations, and I'm not sure what the approach would be within those renovations. But if you look at it from renovations, you're tying into existing building systems. We have no swing space. So swing space is defined as having allocated square foot to where you can put the students. So I think those are 2 major components, one for the kindergarten, and 2 for the renovations. I think the renovations would have to be phased in a manner that either the options are you construct while the kids are in school, which has on its pros and cons.
Yes.
And, or you look at the option, oh, sorry, for that thing to go up. Say what this finger.
I mean, you're just counting.
And the second one threw me off. The second one would be if you do.
You're on video too.
That's right. Well, it's meant for somebody. You would have to look at either doing it while the kids are in school with pros and cons, and you're looking at swing space of putting kids in schools where we already know we're out of square footage. So that is no easy feat to achieve. Just looking at this.
Yeah, no, it is not.
35,000 feet.
It is not. Yep.
That's my concern, just,
Yep.
or not concern, it's really just, so if I look at, put my school board hat on. Expensive, either option,
Yeah.
problematic, both options.
Problematic, how?
Well, number one, to build while kids are in school, there are so many precautions that have to be taken place.
Yeah, we talked about that with Spring City too.
Right, but this would be a much larger.
Right,
so much
larger scale, sure, yeah.
larger
We
population.
deliberated that before.
So that is the first one, and so you have the mere fact of,
It wasn't decided that we were gonna do that. correct? Like that's not part of the.
No, I'm just giving my,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you know,
it's feedback, we're gonna need feedback.
Right, no, I'm just like, to make a broad statement that it's problematic, I just wanna know what the problems.
well, I'm looking at it from an engineer's perspective.
Yeah.
Right? So it's problematic if we're gonna add on to this building here. To add on to this building here, you're gonna tie into the building systems.
Right.
The building systems, what will currently heat or cool the class,
Right.
right? So you got an environmental concern you have to have there. You got a noise concern that you have to have there. You have to look at how kids would enter and exit the building. You would have to involve the Upper Providence, Limerick Township fire departments, because now you are changing the overall structure of that building.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things you would have to really consider
And
on
I,
a large scale.
and I don't disagree with you. I mean, those are absolutely the things that we need to consider. And I think what you're talking about, like that's built into this plan is to be able to examine those things so that we can actually have the conversation. Because at this point, like, I don't disagree with you. I mean, everything you're saying to me, like, yeah, like, I understand your experience, but like, I don't know that I'm ready to make a comment to say like, yes, it is problematic or no, it's not. But I think it's important to bring those things forward and state them so that Dr. Scanlon and
So
Mr.
when I'm
Fink-
saying problematic, I'm looking at it through a different lens.
Right, and
Right.
from a solution standpoint,
And Spring City was empty. Right?
100%. And that's what we intended. But I mean, I hear you, Mr. Jackson. For
So
me,
if you don't want the term problematic, challenging.
It sounds like pros and
Yeah.
cons.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's just why I asked.
Oh,
yeah.
Those are not, no.
Can use whatever word
Those are things that can be solved for.
potentially, we don't know.
Yes, we don't know.
I mean, they
That's-
may be real impediments, in which case, like, we have a conversation.
But
You
it's not
have,
novel.
you have aged buildings, which factors into that. So I'm not, anything can be done. The Empire State Building was constructed in 444 days, 100 stories, long before technology ever happened. So anything can be done.
There's,
You
there's,
just gotta,
I-95 was
there's
still.
trade-offs.
When it fell apart. wasn't
and
it?
95 was 2 days.
So-
2 days.
So what I hear you say, as we look at this, we gotta look for, land for full day K, if you're gonna build space for full day K, that's big, that's obviously a cost, and two costs, one, the space, two, the operational cost. We gotta tell you what that's gonna be, what we think it will be.
Yeah.
Then we gotta decide. The swing space, so your mind is already, as engineering mind, is already into the implementation phase. And yes, you need a place to put kids while you do renovation. Sometimes that is an addition on a building and then you move in and then you work on it. There's lots of ways to do it.
Oh, I had those.
Kevin, you've been through this before. There's ways to do it, but it's a challenge. And you don't have an open building to move kids to do a renovation. So it's challenging. That may take longer because you gotta go over 2 or 3 summers, finish a project, which pushes the whole time.
It's like you phase that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately, I had the pleasure, maybe I can say that, of overseeing the reconstruction of Patterson Public School District. It was 30 schools. Who did this with, and anything can be done. I'm just saying, these are things we have to think about. I'm just putting it on the table to make sure that it's thought through.
Good feedback, thank you.
I won't be here at some point, so I'm just trying to share with everyone. Okay. All right, good.
Come back and make.
Other thoughts?
Maybe it's just for this meeting. I would love if we didn't talk over each other. I find it really tough to like follow the discussion. So like if you're speaking, let's let you speak.
Yeah.
For all of us, because we're all guilty of it. I'm not calling anyone out, but let's let you speak or whoever it is. But like, so if anybody else has a comment now, because it's, are you done,
I'm done.
Mr. Jackson? Go ahead.
You can call me Clinton. I'm done.
I'm trying to be polite.
My
COJ then.
Oh.
my comment is, Mr. Jackson, come back and make a public comment for us when you're not on the board, but I have no issues with the timeline. I think the timeline is very well thought out, and to Teresa's point, I appreciate the deliberate stops, multiple stops where we can see community input.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to show the strategic approach that we're thinking of all options, and it's pretty clear with this plan. Saying we know we have issues, we're thinking about it, here are all the routes that we can consider, or thinking up, we're aware of that. That's why we're talking about this. This isn't gonna be done next year. It's something, if we move this here, this has gotta move there, and it's a big a big puzzle that we're gonna solve, and it will likely change and shift no matter what whichever initial path we decide to take, because there'll be a lot of change in the years, but I think this is a very strategic first step.
I agree, and I see our architectural friend is in the room. Just back to some of the points that you were making. So I remember when we did the full day, at least one of the full day kindergarten presentations, we got to this level, and I imagine this will happen, like a lot of those considerations, if you recall, were laid out. So we're not at that point yet, because there were so many permutations of options. I would not have expected that, but I imagine at a certain point when I forget is that January where we whittle it down to 2 or 3 options? When we get to that point, like we would have that level of detail. Yes. Okay.
We could make that a consideration.
I think
you know,
that's helpful.
And analyze each scheme
Okay.
with the thought of phasing.
I think it's helpful to consider that. I also think it's just helpful for the board and the community to understand pros and cons of each of the options. You did that at a very high level in the presentation, but like some of these other factors are more nuanced. So there's like student impacts, there's like how difficult is it going to be if you need to like do it, for example, like you were saying, like during school day when children are there. So like those different things regarding whatever I'm like going into work mode because this is how I think about things. Like I bucket things into criteria. So like there's things that are important to us from a goal perspective, but then there's the way I think of it is like there's like time, there's money, level of difficulty, impact, like things like that. And I don't know if you think of analyses that way, but like that's just how I think about it. Like those types of things and understanding some of those pros and cons would be helpful.
Understood.
Yeah, there's other pieces I think that we're missing in some of the analysis, and I mentioned them in here. We started to look at our charter school enrollment.
Yeah.
And, we're paying $17,000 a year for a child to go to a charter school. If it's a regular ed, $50,000 a year for special education services for a charter school student. We have currently 31 kindergartners in just one of the charter schools in the Renaissance Academy. They're full day kindergarten. There's 31 students in there at 17,000 track. I think one special ed, so.
Plus transportation costs.
Mhm. Well, we
Is that
transport them, we
17K?
have to transport them.
Yeah.
Can you continue that statement? So what is this a key point that you?
So the key point is, if we don't offer, we're partially paying for a full day kindergarten program for charter schools. So if we bring kids back, now here's what else happens. If we bring kids back, we avoid that cost. That's money we can roll in to help offset some of the costs of our operational costs. We also know that once kids are in some of these schools in kindergarten, they're going to stay first and second grade. So the next question we started to analyze is how many students do we have K-5 in just the one school? 85. 12 of them are special education students. That's $600,000 we're paying just for those 12 kids to go there. So there's some other data analysis I think we need to do. We want to make that part of this report.
Yeah.
Now, is it enough to offset all the costs for full day K? Probably not for that one school, but it's something that was not part of the original. And is it gets you down close enough that you can start saving over 5, 6, 7 years down the road, maybe have an opportunity to do that. That's what we want to tease out, give the board accurate information. We're not going to bring something to the board that this district can't afford. But Clint, as you said, you can do anything you want, just something's going to give. What's going to be the priority. So there's some analysis that we want to do. We are scheduling meetings with the architects to get into some of the more detailed nuances. A feasibility study is more high level. Do you have the space in the room? Do what you need to do to get the space. We're not in design phase. You don't do that until you issue a go.
And so if we bring that back full circle to what we talked about earlier in the meeting, right? This to me highlights again, the example of what we mean by like deeper dive analysis, because you're right. Like, I think you couple what Mr. Jackson said, like, here are all the challenges, here's all the things that we need to be thinking about, but then also thinking about what's this other level analysis that has not been done, which frankly, like, that is very eye-opening for me. When you basically put out there that we did this analysis, and again, this is surface level, there's more to it, but we're paying for full day kindergarten already, and we don't really even reap the benefits of that. When you think about having those students in charter school, which to me, like, is very eye-opening. So like I definitely support like looking at this with a different lens and maybe we've looked at it in the past.
Yeah. And I also include academic impact in there too. That's another analysis. We met with principals today about this topic. We know that we get more kids back. Great. You know that many of those children are coming from private kindergartens and they're coming from charter schools. So we do assessments, reading assessments and math assessments to find out where they are. Right, we just finished all those last week. So we can plan instruction accordingly. And so we're actually gonna, as the principals were doing that, I've asked them to identify how do our kids who are now first grade compare with some of their reading readiness skills and math readiness skills versus those coming out of a private, full-day private, full-day charter. So we'll do that analysis and see what we find. You know, we have reading specialists spending a lot of time in first grade, and we want to know why some of the kids are struggling. Maybe they're not our kids, maybe they're coming from somewhere else. But we don't have that. We got access to a piece of data. I think it's an important piece of data from the academic lens. As I said, this goes through multiple committees. That's a curriculum committee thing, right? But they're all connected because at the end of the day, you still gotta have the space and you still gotta pay for it and you have the operational costs. So we want the board to have as much accurate data and information to make a good decision.
I'd like to remind the board that we've gone through this process previously. There is information that exists now. One of your competitors, I'll call them out. So I'm not sure that we went to this depth. I don't remember. So same building, same square footage, same district, same issues, but only talking maybe 2 years ago. So I don't know if that information, it's public information, could be shared with them to add to the analysis, maybe save some time, maybe they looked at it through a different lens, but it's still the same building, still the same issues.
Yep.
That might be worthwhile to benefit.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dr. Stone, every year there is no threshold, right? How many kids can go out of school district at kindergarten level, right? They can, if they can find a spot, they will go to other charter schools. So
Yeah, that's fair.
obviously it's, if there is newer charter schools are popping up only for a year, they know there's business in the school district, so they'll just take the kid and, you know, because my understanding is, I'm not in those shoes yet, but Renaissance, it's tough. It's a lottery system, there's only X amount of spaces and then there's so many, applicants. But if there is enough spots or different schools, then most likely parents are gonna send their kids there. Because personally speaking, I don't think I want my kid in the bus back and forth between different facilities, even I'm paying for a part-time kindergarten somewhere and daycare, in the morning care or afternoon care here. Because that's the last thing I want my kid, 5-year-old or 6-year-old, traveling in a bus. I'm sure most of the families feel the same way. And that's a big thing that we cannot measure it every year.
Right.
It could be next year, it could be the entire kindergarten classes going into charter school.
It could be, and when your charter schools fill up, they have a certain amount of spots they fill up. If another neighboring district puts full day kindergarten in, that opens up spaces. You've seen this.
Yeah.
So now, who are flying, now they're going, and it's more cost for us. Don't have to like that.
And it would be interesting to see the cost of that aftercare. For example, I think back my son, who's a senior this year, was in for half-day kindergarten, and for 2 months, he went to the Y, and it was about $600 a month for one child.
It's actually not that. It was 70 a month when
It's
Yeah.
horrible. Because when my twins were in all-day kindergarten in Moreland, they had an aftercare program at the school. They all day kindergarten, and then they went to aftercare, which cost me $250 a month for 2 kids. On site.
Yeah,
So there are interesting options, and that's Montgomery County still. And that's where I look at that going, I was paying, all day kindergarten and then like a couple hours aftercare, $250 for 2 kids, $600 a month for one kid. We
Yeah.
told them after 2 months.
there's a cost for parents.
Yeah.
While that is concerning for the community and for parents, I mean, our job is really to do the analysis and the cost for those children.
Exactly. But looking at that.
But I think that's part of the reason why I appreciate how you've built in the community input, because as we continue on and get deeper into the analysis, like, I don't foresee us stopping with wanting to hear folks, like, and I'll speak for me personally, like, you need to validate or invalidate what you two shared as parents, like, to understand, is this broadly? And then use that as one decision point in the decision that we have to make as a board, because ultimately the decision resides with us.
One more comment, the daycare that I'm sending my kid to, just one, hopefully eventually two, they charge for half day around $1,200 a month. And I'm willing to pay to Springford if they can keep my kid in one building for throughout the timing.
Yeah.
I'm willing to pay. I'm not concerned about the tuition and everything. It's just the concern is,
Yeah.
the movement.
If it's, and I have seen the model in school districts where you run a half-day program. If you have space and you do a fee for service for it's a daycare, it's not
Yeah.
instructional, but if they're right in the building, the kids just walk down the hall to a different classroom for the afternoon. I've seen that. And there's a fee for service for that, but most districts will have the YMCA or somebody else run that program. So that's,
That could be.
I've seen that, but that's not instructional. That is not the same as a full
But
day.
that could be interim space where you can at least keep the kids in the district, let the parents pay. So whatever it costs we're incurring for the staff and other resources, parents pay, and then it will save us the future costs of, losing them to charter school.
Still need the space to do it.
Yeah.
And you still need to figure out implementation, like, if that's
Yep.
down the road, something we want to talk about.
I just wanted to clarify too, that there won't be new charter schools that just pop up. If a new charter school wants to be in the Springford Club, that would be there's a voting process and things like that. So the district it would have to go
Board has to
get a
approve that.
board
Yeah.
approval. So it wouldn't just start, it would be there'd be voting and meetings about any new schools in our footprint.
Maybe with that, I'll pause because I'm being thoughtful of our time. Is there any other, well, what else do we have on the agenda? I think, was it just one comment or
A couple of, what do you say?
is there anything really pressing that anyone on the board wanted to say that they didn't get to share?
I guess I just want to ask, what are the next steps then? So we've
Yeah.
presented this
Yep.
at this meeting. We're just gonna follow this guideline.
Dr. Scanlon, if you-
Yeah, I would probably put it on our work session topic, just so the full board has an opportunity to weigh in on the same thing, and then we'll begin the process analysis.
We do have 2 board members online tonight as well, just so you guys know.
This was last
This is not- This is really a committee meeting.
Everybody's watching.
Yeah, we have a full board in
Yeah.
attendance. It's wonderful.
All right,
So we will put it on for the work session
next week.
to do what?
Like this again for the meeting.
Will this be a presentation? I guess the question is like, is it a
Yeah.
presentation? Is that what you're planning to just go through?
do a similar thing, and I can add some of the other considerations that we heard here tonight. We'll update.
Okay, well, sounds good.
Okay.
Sorry, quick, question.
Is the intent for a vote at the following meeting? I guess I'm just trying to understand. We do the presentation. And then the next step is what, defined by what?
And yeah, well, Dr. Scanlon can share what comes next.
We can certainly put it on the September 29th board meeting agenda for a vote for the board to approve the timeline.
Is that necessary from your perspective?
I don't know that it's necessary, but it certainly does
Signal.
put a statement.
Yeah, if we're gonna bring it to the board, there needs to be some, I would think, some sort of action. on it.
I mean, even if it's like, I don't know. There's a
Vote
real
might not be
word.
the right thing, but
I mean, it would be. I mean, like, even if it's a vote to just signal our commitment to the
Yes.
timeline, right? And the analysis that has been laid out by our administration.
that the will of the board has been defined and we're moving forward.
Can we do it with flexibility though? I just say because time, I mean, you've worked in this, but like timelines move. So like, I'm not against it, but just like, I would just want to make sure that we are not, because things can come up. That we are not anchored to that. Yeah, so
Correct.
if something changes, we're not like,
Right.
oh, it has to get done by January 2026 and there's something unforeseen we can't change.
Or
I
maybe
just
it's a
wanna make sure.
resolution, but we can talk about that as we create the agenda.
Or as an information item at the work
Correct.
session for the board, and then we'll start following, and the checkpoints along the way.
Yeah, that's a good point, Teresa.
There's an information item and.
Yeah.
Okay,
Information.
and I'll make some of the changes to some of the other considerations. Okay, thank you very much.
Connor, I think, had a question, then I'm gonna go back to Jim, because he has a couple of things.
Wait, when you do the assessment regarding the revenue or the cost that like we incur in the charter school, can we look at for past 5 years or 10 years to see how we can get the moving average on it? Because it's a moving target. Some years it could be 10 kids, some years could be.
Yeah, we can do that pretty easily. We have the enrollment data, so we have the PDE data for.
Yeah, I think that's
Tuition
part-
rates.
To your point, if that's part of the analysis
Yep.
that's get done, is it's not just a snapshot just now of what we have, because we've seen, before COVID came about, there weren't that many,
Yeah.
frankly. Now that happened, and now it seems to be the norm.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, so certainly, yeah, we want to look at some of that historical data and see what the trends are.
Jim, I'm gonna pay 1 minute, so why don't you go first and I'll take the last minute of this.
We have 1 minute?
No, I don't need myself 1 minute, but the. We have more time. Yes, we have 8 minutes. We have 7 minutes. Needs to.
Right, so we have. We looked at the capital plan timeline, so the next, there is an assessment appeal. And that we've negotiated. Solicitor. Is for a property located at 410 Linfield Track Road. It's an office building, 2-level office building. They appealed with the implied market value at the current common level ratio is about $8.5 million. They appealed with an opinion of value of, $6.4 million. Our appraiser gave his opinion of value at $6.5 million. We negotiated a settlement of $6.92 million, so about $420,000 over what our appraiser said. The tax impact of that settlement will be about, at the current millage rate, be about $11,000.
Loss, yeah, per year, yeah.
It's always a.
It's not always a loss,
Yeah,
actually,
it's pretty much
sometimes.
always.
Well, I think to negotiate, I think.
Negotiation.
I think when you talk about the negotiation, it sounds like, oh, we won, but no, we.
Whatever otherwise, how about that?
Cost the board.
Yeah, cost avoid. So we'll have that on the board for consideration. Also, we have a food service worker. So there's a couple of food service workers that we're just kind of swapping some hours around. It's all tied to the individual. So we have, there's 2 individuals, food service workers at the high school. One is we're looking to increase a quarter of an hour a day. The other one we're looking to decrease a quarter of an hour a day. So that's a lot. And this is because of who's covering breakfast. Then we're gonna kind of switch that. And then a third employee at the 8th grade will be going down a half an hour just due to a transfer from Royersford, a voluntary transfer from Royersford, knowing that those 3 reductions will also be on the board for your consideration. At the end of the month, I guess that is, right? Yeah, I think that's all I have.
I have a quick one, and then I also need to leave time for public comment. So we've talked at length about our favorite topic of property tax. I mentioned several months ago, I think it was in May, that Mr. Fink and I had met with Joe Webster and his policy director, also connected with Joe Cerisi, and I connected with Maria Collette. So just trying to get this issue out here that not just our district, but multiple districts in the state are having impact from property reassessments, specifically commercial, and the negative impact. So I was able to reconnect with Joe Webster's policy director, and there's a research on this topic to see if we can bring a bill forward to the House to consider a change to Pennsylvania state law. That's a real big, it's a real big hurdle to get over, but they're willing to do the research and see if a bill is feasible. So there's nothing being promised, but I'm excited that we at least are making some traction. So stay tuned. I'll provide updates. They shared it's probably, I'm going to give it 6 to 8 weeks just to give a buffer, because this Mr. Fink shared the state budget's not passed, so they're pretty busy right now, but I'll share more updates as I can.
Do you know if they're including Matt Bradford in that?
I don't know yet, because it's not even at the stage where the research is done. So let's just pretend the research goes well and we get to a point where there's a bill like definitely can talk to Matt and, see if.
But
there's
because
benefits
this,
to
as just as the
sponsorship.
speaker and the involvement that he does have
Yeah,
in
it's
the
a good
whole area,
suggestion.
I think it would be good to include him.
I can reach out to his office.
I appreciate you taking action. Not that I know you to not take action, but I appreciate you taking action. Yes.
I appreciate what you're doing and wish you luck. I think this is the fourth time we're gonna try this, but
The fourth time's a charm.
Yeah.
I think we did board member, but is there anything else?
Can I ask, did we do items to recommend for discussion at the next board meeting?
Jim shared them,
Yeah,
but
I did
Yeah.
the assessment appeal and the food service workers, and the other thing that we had was the accounting manager.
That's what I wanted to talk, like, get clarity on that. So are we recommending as a finance committee to bring that forward? And Dr. Scanlon, it sounds like you're in support of us making that recommendation and bring that forward in September for discussion and vote again? Okay,
I am in favor.
okay.
Do we have enough people in favor?
I am in favor of it, but I think everyone knows where I stand, but I
Yeah.
support taking it to the full board.
Okay, so that's three.
I'm in favor of it. I voted for it.
Yeah.
and really have it. But I think, again, I know that time is of the essence,
Yeah.
but I was just,
It's fine.
as I had mentioned earlier, a concern I had about it before was that there were multiple avenues for board to express questions or concerns and
Yeah.
so we are here at committee during finance.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make, and I wasn't implying that you didn't, as the chair, offer that opportunity. It just, I don't know if people were available or what. So I just want to make sure that board members that are here are able to ask any questions that they have. Or that you do it at the.
Or
work
I was gonna
session.
say, can we separate it
Bring it back.
intentionally? I will promise to separate it when we talk about questions and discussion and finance, and so that we are not time bound and we can dedicate the amount.
Yeah, either way, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure we're cognizant of that.
And I think it's important to bring up at that meeting, mentioned some of the deeper dives into, say, the 10-year plan for athletics and these things that we are now doing, which is putting more of a workload, more of an analytics need
Yeah.
in your office. So I think when we talk about this at the board meetings, if you can kind of,
And then we can deliberate there, yes.
because I think getting that sense of, we didn't have a 10-year plan for athletics. I'm just using it as an example.
Yeah.
Now we do. That's a lot of work, 10-year outlook from
Yeah.
that times all of the other things that we're already doing. Plus some of those lower level things that you mentioned. So I think that's a really key way to look at this, in my humble opinion.
So I promise to do that. We'll separate it.
I will ask Mr. Fink to resurface, if you don't mind, the memo that we have, so we can put that in the board memo for everyone, and we will have the separate time
I'll
for
put that out
deliberation.
there, and if all right, I'll put a little bit of a cost analysis.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
You had that already, but some things have been updated now.
My understanding was it was not funded. I mean, it was not in the
So-
budget for the next year and it was just to add on. So that was the hesitation I had
Sure.
personally. Maybe I didn't understand it correctly, but it's anything at $27 or $27,000. It still, puts a delta into the next year's budget.
And I think it's fair to hear those concerns when we deliberate, so.
Because that was my concern, which was, asked at the board meeting, right before the voting. Is this fund, budgeted in the next year budget? And the answer was no. And that just triggered me. And I didn't have enough time to ask questions, so I accept that, but that was a very good question. I believe it was asked by Mrs. Goldsmith. But that was a very good question that I think we should really look into consistently. If something goes into the agenda, it should state that it is in the budget or it's not in the budget, because that's like a big factor for us to decide.
So I just want to jump in as someone who's going to do the agenda creation with Dr. Scanlon. And let me first say that, like, the intent here is not to put anyone on the defensive. You are absolutely worthy of having conviction in your vote and vote. I think the point here is let's bring, we didn't have a superintendent in place before. Let's hear his perspective. Let's hear and bring those concerns up so that we can have a full discussion on it and see where the board stands.
Yeah, I get it, but then there's several times a question, past 24 hours that, no questions were asked. But, sometimes you can't think of those questions, someone else thinks of it, and somebody thought about it, said, is it funded? And no,
Yeah.
And then
And
it's
that's
just a
what, and that's
simple,
what, that was your motivating
Yeah.
factor, and that's fair.
so, you know, it's not that I didn't do my due diligence, but it was just that question that was triggered in my head.
Yeah, that's the discussion.
I was not targeting you.
No, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, you know,
I
I'm
was
just stating
reviewing
my,
the process of.
you know, I like doing my homework, but sometimes you don't understand the problem correctly. So
All right, friends, we are over time.
You
Thank you
sure
for
are.
sharing your perspective. And I appreciate your perspective. I want to pause. We have not had time for public to be heard on topic. So if I could just pause, is there anyone here in the room for the public that has a comment that they'd like to share? If so, please state your name and township address. No, okay. I'm sorry.
Do board comment for that.
Is there anyone on Zoom that has board comment that didn't get to speak? Erin, does anyone have their hand raised?
No, Heidi is the only one who remains on Zoom. I believe Maggie is here.
All right, movement to adjourn.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seriously?